Morning all, it's chocker freezation up north, so everything's solid and cold. Right, I went on Fleabay and I bought this rotating stop, which is quite a pleasing thing. It runs on a little track. Somewhere in here will be the track. All right, so I'm just going to put some grooves. I'm on the Tom Senior milling machine today. This old lump is cast iron, I think, which makes a right mess of everything. So I'm going to set the machine up as a horizontal cutter and hopefully not throw chips everywhere. This is a universal machine. The Quill doesn't have travel. Vertical travel is achieved by moving the knee up and down. Okay, out come the bolts. And drop that onto its face. Okay, we'll just crack that flange off. Put him back on the universal head. So your knucklehead's a Morse taper 2. This is Clarkson Auto Lock Chuck, and then your horizontal is a Int 30 taper. Right, that's just to stop tut getting in there when I'm not using it. Just a plug. When I've got that faceplate off, I do not want tut going into those holes, so I'll just blank those off. Right, we'll start by putting the overarm on. I'll give that a rub with oil first. Okay, so a quick rub with ACF 50. There's not much room at the back of this machine, so this is your arbour. So put the drawbar on and we have a double locking nut at the back, and through it goes round the back. We've got a couple of locking nuts. There's a hole in the back door so that you can actually, bring your arbour right through as well. Right, here we go. So we're in direct drive now. Want to pull the pin there on the bull gear, slide the main unit across, engage that pin. That can push back, and now we're going through back gear, and we'll fill this little oil well. Right, this will be a thick machine oil. So there we go. We've got the back gear set up. So I'm going to set up the cutter now. I'll put a slab mill on there. So I'll put a big boy cutter on and see how we get on with it, eh? But I've got to take all this apart, clean it up. Then make sure all the parts are good and clean. Try and have the cutter as near in to the inner face as possible. I'm not sure how straight this thing's going to be, so what I'm going to do is pull the table out, lift it up, and put a clock gauge just on the end. Okay, well, I'm just turning this by hand. I haven't done anything too gruesome to this yet, but it's about 6 thousandths out at that end. So take it to pieces, clean the taper out again, check for dingleberries on the arbour, go from there. Okay, so about 15 minutes of polishing this part of the taper and then smartening up this little locating end, and we'll see if we're a bit better. Right, well, with a bunch of fiddling, I've got it to within sort of 3.5 thousandths, and the high spot's right where that blooming key is. What my next plan is to build up the arbour here So I'm just taking each little collar, shining the ends up so they all stack together nice and neat on there. So there's a few dingleberries on them to start with, and then if we just put a bit of work in, and the dingleberries will disappear, and just shiny that up. So I'm going to do that all the way along. It's just the further out I get, the more inaccurate it's going to be. And if I can make these stack up real good to start with, I'm in with half a chance. Right, I put my gloves on, shinied up that slab mill cutter. That looks like the business now. Put the end nut on, your stack's built up, cutting in that direction. Put the overarm on. It's quite a canny design actually. You've got a rapid tensioner. Okay, right there. And this pin can be taken out and set a quarter of a turn either way if you're not quite tensioning in the right spot. Alright, so that feels good. The overarm is in. Just nips that top one up. Tighten up on that one. Just a little nip on there. And there's an oil reservoir that will fill on yon side. Right, not crazy tight on this arbour, we'll just nip it up. There we go, not crazy tight, and that should do. Right, we've plonked the vise on, cleaned it first, plonked it on, and just set it with a block and the square face at the back. That'll be near enough. Let's mount the work up. Okay, we're up and running, just touching. I've got 100 revs a minute there. We're slow feed on the table, set my dials, and I'm locked off. Okay, so engage feeds. Oh yeah, if I knock it backwards then knock it forward, it comes on. Yeah, that looks nice. And that's got through the scale. So I'm just going to square up, flip it, and square the top side, and work my way around. Pretty sensible looking finish. We did a stack of parallels. So that the parallel, when it's sat, was sitting in the better part of the stock. So rinse and repeat there, then rinse and repeat there, then bring it flat there. Yeah, cast iron. Oh, horrible. Lovely to machine, horrible to clean up. I've cleaned all the oil off this machine before I started, so I've got half a chance at the end of cleaning it up. Actually, this is it's coming off as quite a fine powder, so that's probably quite a good piece of cast. Sometimes it comes off as shardy bits. Okay, so I've just slipped a parallel under that, and I'm putting a little bit of copper wire, and I'm just seeing. Yeah, that's closing up better square. What I'll do is I'll just check at the back with a square. Right, just fire it up, lift the table. So I'm just touching, just on it, and coming that way. Yeah, that'll be climb milling that way. I'll come off the end and lift the table by about 1 millimetre. Rinse and repeat. That's the slowest feed rate I've got. I just throw a tarp in on the back. Just throw a tarp, stop the dust getting stuck in the cross slide. Right, done that side, flipped it, come around the back, handheld. Now there's the old dust maker doing its job. Okay, so we've broken this arbor down again. Going to put a slot in, the slot cutter, then we'll come back, get it to the correct width, which is that, and then cut out the undercut. That's the best cutter I've got, that's the one I'll use. So on goes that one. I'm going to use the horizontal mill to take out the guts. Yeah, I think this time I will put the protection on so I don't get my fingers tangled up in the machine. Wouldn't look good, would it? Right, so that bigger diameter cutter, we've reduced the machine speed so we keep the same surface feet per minute speed of the cutter. I need to remake this to make a proper knockoff. So I can set stops on the mill. So we've got the first cut there, 2.5mm. That did really well. So we've put a cut on now of 5mm, and we're still at 86 RPM. Checked everything's tight. Yeah, you can feel that's working quite hard now. Got to watch it doesn't just knock itself out of feed. I've got my finger on the button. If it louses up, I'm going to knock it off pretty quick smart. We're heading for the full depth of the wheel now, the full diameter. It's doing all right. Yeah, it's doing okay. It's coming along pretty well. All right, so I've just lifted the table for a 5mm cut. I'm just putting a ruler to make sure my guard's clear. So there you go, Tom Senior ploughing into a lump of cast. Happy days. All right, so it's time for a tear down now. Okay, clean it off first, get all the dust out of it, go from there. Having spent ages making sure that's straight, I don't want to lean on it and bend the sucker. Oh, that's loose. It's loose. I do not want all that dust landing up in the geared column area. Right, break out the knucklehead, eh? So there you go, there's the back of it. We've got two studs that slide in a circular groove. We know it goes that way up. Because there's a grading on the top there. Don't want to do that. Right, that's on good and solid. Put those there. One at the top, one at the bottom. I'm going to offer up this bad boy. Okay, and then just twist the spindle till, there you go. Twist the spindle till it locates. get a nut on quick. That is deceptively heavy. Right, so we need to square up the quill to the workpiece. Drop that Clarkson collet holder out. So we've got little Edge Technologies gadget. When you set this up, you zero the dial on one side, spin it 180, zero the other dial. So he's a bit high. Lock it, as it does affect it when you lock it. Ah, well, wouldn't you know? Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I usually go to. Right, I'm going to just tighten that on and see if that changes as I tighten it. Oh, blooming marvellous. Right, no, it's good. So that's locked on. If I take the lock off, let's just see where those needles go. Yeah, they do move. Right. So that's held directly in a collet. Into the Morse Taper 2 spindle. Now I'm going to centre that up on that slot, so I'll probably just find something that's about the right width and lift the table up to it, see how that feels. Okay, so my cutters weren't a great fit, so what I'll do is just pop a live centre in and drop it to touch that slot nice and easily. Okay, so that's centre on the groove. So there you go. Unscrew your cutter, screw that right down. Undo that, really half a turn, tighten that. And that cutter won't go anywhere and it'll hit the bottom and it won't ride up or down. It'll just be accurate. Okay. So it's on 650 revs. Give it a go. Should touch when I hit 0. It's 5mm. See how that feels. Don't like that, that's horrible. Sort that out in a minute. It's on a VFD is this, so it's on a variable speed drive. Sounds a bit better. Alrighties, so yeah, my slot looks pretty good. A little bit of wiggle, but perfectly fine for what we want. What I'm going to do now, at some stage I want to mount it on a machine, so I'm going to put 4 spaced holes while I'm on centre with this. Right, I've set the stubby drill up, got some measurements on here now, and using the knee to lift the work. There's no quill feed on this. Okay, so I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do it with the 8mm, then I'll do the counter bore. Okay, 4 holes drilled and counterbored with the end mill, and we'll put the slot cutter on next. So I just loosen off on the cutter here and unscrew it. So I just nudge that, unscrew, easy peasy. Here we go. In goes my slot cutter. Alright, so we started putting the T-slot in. We look like we're about right. A lot of vibration in the machine. Lock everything off, snug that in. Alright. It's going to be a slow, noisy job. Get my dependers on, boy. We're coming to the end of the slot. We're running at about 330 revs. I've had to hand feed this, so I've had to hand feed this. Blimey, that's noisy. Hang on. Alright. So I've had to hand feed this. What I'll do is I'll turn the speed down, engage the back gear, widen the slot because it's not quite right, and see if I can do that on a power feed. Okay, so there's your speeds, spindle speeds on the M1 milling machine. Gives you without back gear, with back gear, and then that just shows you what I'm doing inside that column. Okay, so again we're looking at the side of the column. Take it out to drive. Ease back on the pin, boys. Yeah, that's what a bull pin looks like in the wrong place. Right. Alright, pull your bull pin, slide your gear across, and if you're lucky, yeah, if you hit it lucky, it just slots across. Don't force it, Phoebe. So we're going to want, I'll go 160, 169. So 169 is on 2 and B at the top. So I'll go 2. Don't get your fingers locked into there. Alright. Like that. Alright, so that's now in speed 2 there. Again, I'm in back gear, so I'm going to put the oil in. So around the back, we're tight for space, so we're on C here. Going to move it across 1 and move it across one at the bottom. This extra belt here drives the gearbox, which is the feed. All right, and then there's a belt. It goes right down to the base. It's disconnected, and that bottom pulley is your coolant. Okay, so we're in back gear now, which means that when we feed it, we've slowed the table down and gotten rid of those vibrations. Right, so we're coming back down, just tidying up the bottom of the slot now. The workpiece is going in this direction towards us. The cutter's rotating clockwise away from us. So we're just cleaning up the base of that T-slot now. Alright, so T-slot cut. There'll be some sharp edges there, but it's cast, so not too sharp. Okay, so we've got not too much waggle and we're perfect on there, so I'm happy with that. It's as good as we can do. That was the size of T-slot that's matched for this. What we'll do now is mark up the edges, put a decorative edging all the way around. Right, so I'm just putting a step in the top surface there. Then I'll come in with a corner rounding cutter and smarten up the edges. Cut a couple of reliefs in the corners at the top, and should look tidy. All right, so we've had a bit of a mic issue going on here, but anyway, we've smartened that up, tidied up around the edges. I haven't finished the ends. I'll file them or something, and then mate it to whatever machine or wherever it wants to be fixed to. So just mate up the machine stop. See it go into the T slot and slide across the top. Yeah, that's all right. The finish is actually quite smooth, you know, a little bit of deburring to do, but that we're right on the length we wanted for that lock nut. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think Tom Senior Mill did what it said on the packet. It's done a good job there. I don't know much about the machine stop there. It came from eBay. I've taken the set bolts out and squared them up, dressed them up. I've sorted the detent out, but don't know anything else. That's about it. Thank you for watching. Shed Guy, gone.